Text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight. Well, that was live from Covent Garden. The government is removing His Majesty from His Majesty's government, replacing branding to say UK government. Ministers serve the crown, we are a kingdom, and our continuity from Alfred the Great onwards is our strength and our identity. Labour is ashamed of our country and its history, and it should be ashamed of itself. Also tonight. Universities, the institutions that form Britain's greatest asset, its people, which exist to encourage free-thinking debate and the exchange of ideas, are now doing the opposite. Bangor University has caused a scandal after its debating society banned a Reform MP from speaking because they don't like what she might have had to say. Why is deplatforming becoming the norm? And
I have confidence in the Ambassador in the role that he is doing. He lied, and he lied again to my team.
This week has gone from bad to worse for the Prime Minister as the Lord Mandelson scandal escalates. His Director of Communications follows his Chief of Staff out of the door, and now we learn one of Labour's newest peers ought to have had his peerage blocked had Starmer been on the ball. His associations with another convicted paedophile. Why is seemingly everyone Keir Starmer appoints useless, sleazy, or both? Plus, as Labour's sleaze row continues, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has urged the police to re-examine the former Prince Andrew's links to Jeffrey Epstein. Gordon Brown himself appointed Peter Mandelson to government. So with the disgraced former ambassador being investigated by the police and Labour facing mounting questions, is this a well-timed dead cat strategy from Mr Brown to divert attention away from Labour's bad judgment and put it back on the royal family? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most phlogistically prognosticating panel, the Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby, Sarah Pochin, and the political consultant and former Labour candidate, Kevin Craig. As always, let me know what you think, mailmog@gbnews.com. But now it's your favourite time of the day, the news bulletin with the scintillating Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you very much, and good evening to you. Just after 8 o'clock, the top story tonight. Police say the 13-year-old arrested over the double stabbing at Kingsbury High School is a former pupil, and that the attack is not being treated as terrorism. The Metropolitan Police say the British national entered a first-floor classroom at the Brent School at lunchtime on Tuesday, sprayed a substance at a pupil before stabbing another 13-year-old boy. As the suspect fled, he stabbed a 12-year-old in a corridor before running from the building. He was arrested just before 5 o'clock the same evening after a member of the public raised concerns about his behaviour at a nearby mosque. Counter-terror officers are now leading the investigation but say there is no evidence of any link to the mosque, and investigators are now leaning towards a personal grievance rather than extremist ideology. Well, next to breaking development in the school shooting in Canada, where police have now named the suspect in that British Columbia school and home shootings as 18-year-old Jesse Van Rootseller. Officers say the suspect was born male, transitioned to female and identified as female. They were found dead at the Tumbler Ridge Secondary School with what police describe as a self-inflicted injury. 8 people are now confirmed dead. Police had earlier said 9. 25 others were injured in the attack at a school and nearby home. Students have since described barricading classroom doors with tables. One father said his son even hid in a corner for hours as the violence unfolded. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has said today he is devastated by what he calls the horrific shootings.
Parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers in Tumbler Ridge will wake up without someone they love. The nation mourns with you. Canada stands by you.
Thames Valley Police has confirmed it has held discussions with specialist lawyers at the Crown Prosecution Service over allegations Andrew Mountbatten Windsor shared confidential government reports with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The force says it is carrying out an ongoing assessment into potential misconduct in public office and is examining material contained within the so-called Epstein files released by the US Justice Department. No decision has been made on whether a full criminal investigation will be launched, but police say they are making progress as quickly as possible. Here, Sir Keir Starmer has been branded the most gullible former director of public prosecutions in history. That after admitting his former aide did not give a full account before being handed a seat in the House of Lords. At Prime Minister's questions earlier today, the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, pressed the Prime Minister on why Matthew Doyle was given what she called a job for life. That's despite campaigning for Sean Morton after he had been charged with indecent images offences.
He cannot explain why he gave this man a peerage, and I think they should be wondering why they're still cheering for him after that. Yeah. And the Prime Minister, sometimes likes to claim, as he just did, that he cares about violence against women. The truth is, he only cares about the victims when he's trying to save his own skin.
Well, as expected, Sir Keir Starmer hit back, telling Kemi Badenoch he'll take no lectures from the Conservatives on standards in public life.
I promised my party and my country there will be change. And yesterday I removed the whip from Matthew Doyle. I'll tell you what other action we've taken, Mr. Speaker. Along with the Safeguarding Minister, I and this government have introduced the most far-reaching violence against women and girls strategy. And I'll tell you what else we've done. This government has introduced a pay rise for millions of working-class women. What did the Leader of the Opposition do? She opposed it. This government's introducing greater protection for women at work. What did the Leader of the Opposition do? She opposed it.
And some breaking news for you tonight. Dawson's Creek star James Van Der Beek has died at the age of 48. In a statement, his family said he passed away peacefully this morning following a battle with bowel cancer. They said he faced his final days with courage, faith and grace and asked for privacy as they grieve. Van der Beek was, of course, best known for his role in the hit US teen drama Dawson's Creek, as a series celebrated for defining a generation of television in the late 1990s. And just before I hand you back to Jacob, another final update on the situation in Canada. We are hearing confirmation now from police officials there confirming that the deceased victims at that British Columbia school do include a 39-year-old female teacher, 3 12-year-old female students and 2 male students, one 12 years old and one 13. So those latest developments just breaking from Canada following the shooting at that British Columbia school. We'll keep across more details for you tonight. Those are the latest headlines. Now, though, back to the most... Who's written this? No, it's just Jacob.
Well, welcome back to State of the Nation. And we're looking at the state of the Constitution today because the basis of our Constitution is the King in Parliament. How does this work? Parliament is made up of 3 different bits, or was until the changes in 2005 or thereabouts. The King and his ministers, the legislature and the judiciary. The King and his ministers form His Majesty's government. They present the programme to Parliament outlined in the King's speech and then reported on at the prorogation of Parliament. The MPs, the peers, are the legislators who debate the laws as they come through, and the judges then decide what the law is that has been passed. This is always set out at the beginning of the Queen's or King's speech. Look at how the late Queen and King Charles do it.
My government intends to work towards a new partnership. My ministers will work to implement new regimes.
My government's priority is to make the difficult but necessary long-term decisions to change this country for the better.
It's my government, and it's my government for a reason, because it is the way our Constitution works as a constitutional monarchy. So ministers have power, but all the power that they exercise is the royal prerogative. They advise the King, and he then follows their advice. He is almost bound to follow capital A advice from the Prime Minister. He can, in return, he can warn, he has the right to be consulted, and he can give his view, but he will follow that advice. But he is the pinnacle and also the safeguard, because one of the great safeguards of our system is that it's not the politicians exercising their own power, but advising somebody else to exercise the power of the state through the person of the sovereign. And that is a protection against unduly authoritarian government. Not that the King will say no to formal advice, but advice that he might say no to will never be given to him. It won't get through to that point. So changing it from His Majesty's government to UK government lessens the safeguards and reduces the basis of our constitutional setup. It goes from making it essentially a constitutional monarchy to a republic in all but name, with the power seen as being with this amorphous body known as the UK government, which has no head, no formation and no history. And history is part of it, the romance of our country, the understanding of how it flows down from King Alfred, who you can see as the founder of this dynasty which still rules today from reigning in the 9th century. You can see it through the way that we don't need to put our country on our stamps. We're the only country that just has the picture of the sovereign. Why? Because actually we issued them first. We have these little quirks within our system that usually have some point to them. And taking this away is symbolically important because it's trying to show, as socialists always want to show, a year zero. We don't need to be linked to our history. We don't need to be proud of our history. We don't need to worry about what we did before. We need to think that we're starting again and afresh. It's essentially trying to impose a 1789-style new constitution on this country, which nobody wants. Blair kept on legislating in this direction. This is being followed up by taking away some part of it that is actually fundamentally important. It's a link to history. It keeps politicians who don't always come out smelling of roses in their place, and it is the fundamental way in which our law operates through the King in Parliament. That is the protection of your rights and my rights. It is a protection against overmighty government. Of course, this lot don't like it because they are overmighty. As always, let me know what you think. mailmog@gbnews.com. But I'm now joined by the journalist and commentator Emma Trimble and my panel, Sarah Pochin and Kevin Craig. Emma, thank you for coming in. This just seems to me to be initially just disrespectful. It's rude to the King to take his name off his government, but it's also an utter failure to understand our history and where our constitution comes from.
I think it's that and worse, for the reasons that you've very beautifully put. This is fundamentally deeply subversive. This is a power grab from this government that are continuing the legacy of Blair. From 1997 onwards, our constitution has been completely trashed with this agenda, as you said, of year zero, of trying to rationalise our constitution. And we have this beautiful constitutional ecosystem with its checks and its balances. We don't have a system like the Republic in France, where all of that beautiful ecosystem was torn down during the French Revolution and you got the tyranny of the majority. Instead, our parliament, the authority doesn't come solely from the consent of the people, but that authority comes from the king, who is anointed by God. And we have this great lineage, as you have said, going all the way back to King Alfred, and actually even sooner, because the model of kingship that this is based on is biblical. And so actually for the government to do this is subversive, and I think it's part of the broader agenda that we're seeing with respect to jury trials and so much else that they're doing also with the local elections. It is suggestive of an attitude towards our inheritance that I think is disturbing and authoritarian. It's not some glib culture war issue. It might just look as if 2 letters have been changed on a bit of stationery, but actually the message this sends is that this government think that they have the right and the authority to change the nature of our state, and they do not.
And one of the protections for minorities is that although the state is very powerful, and although the King in Parliament can pass any law that it chooses to pass, because there are checks and balances within the system, to some extent inefficiencies that mean things can't happen too quickly, there is a tendency to protect the ancient liberties that we've got, of which, of course, jury trial is a crucial one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a point that Edmund Burke put very beautifully when he was arguing with the French revolutionaries, who have very much the same agenda as I think this government does and that Labour governments have had all the way going back to Blair, to try and radically transform our society rather than through gentle reforms. The way that our society and our state and constitution has developed is organic. It's this great thing that is woven through the common law into the fabric of us as a people. And as I said when we started this discussion, I think that this is a power grab.
All right. Well, Kevin, let me bring you in, because I heard you mutter that it's only 2 initials. Well, then why are they changing it if it's only 2 initials? It's symbolically important.
Well, just before I answer that, I have to come back on you two. It's outrageous, really, for you to say that Labour is ashamed of its history or its country, whatever you said. It's outrageous for my esteemed fellow panellists to say that Labour has demolished the Constitution since 1997.
But it's true.
No,
Maybe
it's
outrageous,
true.
but it's true.
It's not true,
Oh, the
Jacob.
vandalism of Blair was
true.
terrible.
Brought reform to government in London, bringing back London
terrible idea.
which has worked very well. We have
dreadful waste of money.
He can't work very well.
Well, we can now breathe. Hang on, there's a 3-on-1 pylon. Someone needs to call Ofcom. Hang on, stand back, the 3 of you. The air in London has improved massively under Sadiq Khan, thanks to the local government that Labour brought in. Reform in Scotland and Welsh government giving power back to people there.
They've been a disaster too.
Your assertions about Labour and its country and its history are off both of you.
All right, Kevin, no, we must come on to this devolution point very briefly, because you've said it's been a great success. Education and health in Scotland and Wales have failed against England in that period, and since 2010, rapidly. It's been bad for people in Scotland and Wales who are poorer less healthy and less well-educated than in England, thanks to devolution.
Well, the devolution is much more complicated than that. I was referring to what had happened in London. You castigated the Mayor of London. I just let you know that the air that all our friends and families breathing is clearer than it would have been without Sadiq Khan.
Not true. That's to do with engine manufacturers' regulations, which come from the United Nations.
It is a fact. And like much of what's been said on here tonight, what I just said is a fact. The air in London is cleaner than it was.
I'm accepting that fact.
Thank you very much.
But it's because of engine regulations, not because of Sadiq Khan.
It's all part of it. Now, it's not to say everything he gets right, by the way, but the way that you position the Labour government on history and our Constitution doesn't gently evolve. The vote for women had to be grabbed by women risking their lives, throwing themselves under horses, to get the suffrage.
The suffragists were much more effective than the suffragettes. But let me bring Sarah.
Well, the last point is HM is 2 letters, and people abroad don't know what HM means. They don't.
That is
so it's been done. It's been done for foreigners.
Yeah.
Who you always love, who you want to bring into this country by boatloads.
Well,
let me bring Sarah.
You should know your lot
Kevin,
left us.
Let me bring Sarah.
My turn. This is an outrageous betrayal of the British people by this government once again. You've just said it's 2 letters. This is about our culture, our history. And I would hasten to add, it's been done yet again through the back door. Has there been a debate in Parliament? No. There's been absolutely no debate in Parliament. Has the King even been asked about this? Well, we've heard nothing about it in the press, nothing about it in Parliament. It's an absolute betrayal. But what I would say, it's yet another insidious move by this Labour government to turn this country away from our history and into a republic. So what's going to happen? Are we no longer HM prisons? Are we no longer HM customs? Are we no longer HM courts? What is that going to happen?
Guys,
I was going to mention HMRC.
It's a naming and branding exercise.
No, it's a removal of the monarchy in the eyes of the British people.
It is.
So it's a branding exercise. So you think His Majesty's government is like bird's custard powder? I mean, this is just so dreadful and cheap.
Because the Labour government and the Labour Prime Minister are very supportive of the royal family.
Bird's custard powder too,
clearly not supportive whatsoever. But why has there been no debate in Parliament on this? And of course, conveniently, recess starts tomorrow. So there we are. We cannot debate this in Parliament.
May I gently suggest, if you feel so strongly, as I think you do, I'll come in and watch the debate that you can make happen by being a member of Parliament. There we are. Job done.
I hope so.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
There we go. I think we're very lucky to have a right reply from the Cabinet Office, which is particularly odious this evening because it thinks we're all idiotic. I would use a word banned by Ofcom, but better not. You can look it up. I think it's on page 38 of their list of banned words. Anyway, Cabinet Office spokesman said to provide clarity of the public. Clarity of the public! We understand. We're not morons, you silly people. Communication teams are advised to use UK government-run departmental names and logos. Logos, heaven help us, for announcements. This does not affect the use of His Majesty's government, which continues on relevant official communications and records. So it's official. The government thinks you're stupid and that they brand it as if it were custard powder. Coming up in just a moment. Lunch was under £1 before Labour put up inflation, but never mind. Universities exist to encourage free-thinking debate and the exchange of ideas, but are now doing the opposite. Bangor University has caused a scandal after its debating society banned Sarah Pochin, our very own, from speaking because they didn't like what she might have said. Why is deplatforming becoming the norm?
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, one of the last surviving D-Day veterans will be given a final farewell in Hampshire today, following his death aged 99.
Yes, rifleman Jim Justice stormed the Normandy beaches on June the 6th, 1944, and he marched on whilst freeing German-occupied towns and villages in Belgium and Holland to help liberate the Belsen-Berger concentration camp a year later.
Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Isabel Fekulak.
Well, I'm here at New Forest Crematorium in New Milton, and the sun is beaming down on what has been quite the powerful display this morning, of course, to honour the life of rifleman Jim Justice, who sadly passed away on January the 10th at the age of 99. He's one of the last surviving D-Day veterans, and today he is being honoured in a service that should be the send-off that he deeply deserves. Now, this morning we saw a huge parade come through the crematorium here with the British standards.
Unfortunately, they're all starting to get to that age now where we're just going to be losing them all. We're not going to have any first-hand knowledge from those guys telling us what it was like. And kids of today, they've got to realise that these guys fought for their country, they fought for their freedom, and we don't need to be giving it away.
Now, that was Nick Lambert, ambassador for the New Milton British Region branch.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
My esteemed panellist, Sarah Pochin, has been at the centre of a huge story this week. Founded on free thinking, open debate and the exchange of ideas, our universities help to build Britain's greatest asset, its people and its thought. But are they now doing the opposite? Bangor University is at the centre of a scandal after its debating society blocked Sarah from a speaking event because they didn't think they'd like what she had to say. When did stopping debate become the norm, and why is deplatforming becoming the modus operandi on campuses meant to champion free speech? Indeed, with a legal obligation to champion freedom of speech. We can go to the lady at the centre of the row, Sarah Pochin herself, along with Kevin Craig. So, Sarah, what exactly happened?
So, and you've hit the nail on the head. Bangor University have not met their legal obligation under the Education Act of 1986 that they should be holding platforms for free speech in this democracy that we are meant to be living in. I asked Bangor Debate, I actually offered my services. I clearly naively thought that they would welcome a politician coming to their debating society to do exactly that, debate with the debating society. But no, it seems that Bangor University's debating society only wishes to debate people who have the same views as them. But actually, they haven't bothered to even find out what my views are. They have branded me racist, homophobic and transphobic with no evidence. On what grounds have they used those terms? Very damaging terms. I don't read my Twitter for the probably death threats that I've got on there. It's a safety concern, but also they have not met their legal obligation to hold free speech in our universities. And one more point, if I may. What is this brainwashing doing to our young, brilliant minds? So people at university, for example, and other young people, but they're being brainwashed with one train of thought only, and they're not being taught to debate, to stand up for their opinions, to listen to new opinions and other ideas. That's very, very damaging for the future of the country.
And it does seem that the people who get stopped tend to be on the right, not on the left. You don't often hear about deplatforming of the left. Don't universities have a duty to make sure that their facilities are properly available?
Yeah, and I'm a bit disappointed with the student union because I think that they've missed a chance. I think you shouldn't ban Sarah or reform because of their politics, because now they can't ask her questions about the Reform candidate who took 40,000 grand of Russian money.
Absolutely right.
They can't ask. I know, but honestly,
have you got all your facts written down there,
I know,
Kevin?
but there's so
all the
many, Sarah.
examples.
Sorry, they can't
Look
ask
at the
her
Labour
about.
Party.
They can't ask her about the racial slurs against Rishi Sunak.
I'd like to talk about the child sexual abuse of so many people in the affiliated with the Labour Party.
This is why we've got you on.
I know.
And why we've got Sarah.
And this is exactly about debate, which they will not do.
This is the lost opportunity, because now the students at Bangor can't hold Sarah to account and ask her about all these corruption issues with reform, the local councils, the candidates,
what about
and
Peter
the racism.
Mandelson and your Prime Minister currently? I'd like to discuss that.
Bangor are missing out on Sarah.
Well, I've offered my services.
Well, the university, unfortunately, has but then got subject to a threat from, as I saw it, Zia Youssef, who said, once we're in, we're going to take millions of pounds off of you. And it wasn't the university, of course.
Well, the university...
Oh, no, I disagree with you, Kevin, on that front. So, because in fact, this afternoon... you might not have it in your notes there, but this afternoon I had a meeting with the Vice-Chancellor of Bangor University and pointed out to him that it is his legal obligation to make sure that the societies that operate within the university stick to a code of conduct, which allows, they represent the university, allows free speech. But that debating society, in the name of Bangor University, put that statement out, brandishing an elected member of Parliament as those three vile terms: racist, transphobic and homophobic, with no evidence, and they will not publicly apologise.
But abuse in politics is a different kettle of fish, that we're allowed to be rude about politicians. I don't think that's
You should see my Twitter feed after coming on here. You know,
I don't think that's a problem.
Well,
I think deplatforming is a problem, but I'm afraid politicians just have to be thick-skinned.
But can I just add, there was a young chap, Jack Anderton, who was going to join me in that debate. He is only 25. He's not an elected politician, and he was also called these vile names. Now, he's a young man with no reason whatsoever. He went to Bangor University and said, Sarah Pochin and I would like to come and hold a debate, a Q&A with your students. And we were told that we were not welcome. But this is something part of a much bigger thing now, and that is not allowing free speech in our society.
But students have always been, would you agree, quite radical. You know, in the old days, they used to sit in. You had May 68.
Let's debate it, Kevin.
Yeah.
Let's debate.
But, I mean, in this instance, I think blaming Bangor. I mean, I was told this afternoon, which you might take issue with, that didn't he threaten to remove 30 million quid of government funding from the uni?
So can I just say...
Well, if you're getting government money, taxpayers' money, you ought to promote freedom of speech.
But as a point of detail, the universities are almost never responsible for student unions. They've got their own constitution.
That's not true, Kevin. The final legal obligation lies with the university to control all of its societies. And the point that Zia Youssef was quite rightly making was that a third of the people in this country now support reform. They are hard-working taxpayers. Yes, that's what the polls are telling us. Kevin, let me finish my point.
Of course.
They're hard-working, tax-paying British citizens that support reform. Their money is paying £287,000 a year to the Vice-Chancellor and supporting the university with £30 million. Zia Youssef was making quite the right point that if you do not operate as an open, democratic organisation, why should British taxpayers support you?
It sounds quite Trumpian, that, though. You do something we don't like and we're going to take your money away.
Yeah, well,
that's from the Trump playbook.
Let them raise their own money.
Yeah, but you know...
It's their fault. I mean, why should we fund these bodies that are anti-free speech?
But
on taxpayers,
the university is not... The student union, I agree, have made, in my personal view, have made a mistake in not bringing Sarah in.
But the
university's been pathetic in trying to deny responsibility. The rooms will be university rooms. The funding that goes to the student union goes to
back in the day, far too long ago than I wish to remember, I was a student union president. I've been in this situation, and how you describe describe it. The union does its own thing across the country.
But the Vice-Chancellor should have come out, in my view, publicly apologised. And the other thing I said to him today should have made room.
Yep.
And I also said, he said he's going to launch an investigation into how this happened. I suggested that the person responsible was suspended until the investigation was completed, and he was more concerned about the welfare of that person.
I suspect
there we go. We're going to have to finish. We've got a spokesman from Bangor University. The song we had earlier was also used in an advert for Anchor Butter, which may amuse viewers. Anyway, the social media post was issued by a student society, not by Bangor University. Student societies are created and run by students through the Independent Students' Union. The views expressed by societies and their own are their own and do not reflect university policy. Bangor University remains politically neutral and supports freedom of speech, welcoming debate from across the political spectrum, which is obviously untrue, because otherwise they'd have made sure that Sarah could have gone there. In a moment.
Confidence in the ambassador in the role that he is doing. He lied, and he lied again to my team.
Every day and every way it gets worse and worse for the Prime Minister as the Lord Mandelson scandal escalates. And now we learn one of Labour's newest peers ought to have had his peerage blocked because of his associations with another convicted paedophile. Why are seemingly everyone, Sir Keir Starmer points, useless, sleazy, or both?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
Still plenty of unsettled weather throughout the Mediterranean, particularly windy in Corsica, Sardinia, Sicily, and it's going to be a wet one for parts of France as well as Greece. But finally, for much of Iberia at the moment, it is drier and sunnier compared with recent weather, aside from the far south of Spain and Gibraltar. Here, we've got a lot of unsettled weather moving through Corsica, Sardinia, Sicily, parts of Italy, some heavy rain. That pushes into Croatia and Greece next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews travel destinations forecast.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A very dull day to come for many of us tomorrow. Some brighter weather here and there, but it will be much colder, particularly for northeastern areas. We're starting to get northerly winds, cold air pushing in from the north. Low pressure systems also bringing batches of rain along these weather fronts, and there will be some quite heavy rain across many southern areas through this evening, pushing into the southeast. That should clear by tomorrow morning, but behind it, a mess of cloud and outbreaks of drizzly rain, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northeastern areas of England, as well as eastern Scotland through this evening. Will turn a little bit dry though for the far north of Scotland. As a result, with some clearer skies around, it could be quite a chilly start to the day on Thursday. So outbreaks of rain for some areas through Thursday morning. The far north of Scotland getting away with a fairly dry day, though for Shetland and Orkney we've still got a risk of snow showers through Thursday morning. Northern Ireland seeing the worst of drizzly rain. It's quite light, but it will be persistent through much of the day, in fact. Cloudy skies for much of England. The far southwest seeing outbreaks of heavy showers into the morning, so a risk of some quite heavy rain and some quite brisk westerly winds. Still relatively mild out there or across more southwestern areas to start the day on Thursday. Elsewhere, though, a chillier feel to come through the day. We've got these winds coming in from the North Sea across many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel, and outbreaks of persistent rain for many northern areas of England and southern Scotland will bring a pretty dismal feel to the day. Across the southwest, though, still 10 or 11 degrees, but that's the last of the mild weather as cold weather becomes more dominant, at least for a time. A risk of snow and sleet. We do have snow and ice warnings in force until around lunchtime on Friday. It's a risk of icy surfaces and snow accumulating over the high ground. But there will be a break in the weather for Saturday, a day of sunshine to come. It won't last all that long, though, because the rain will return for Sunday.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The week has gone from bad to worse for the Prime Minister. The Lord Mandelson scandal is escalating. His Director of Communications has followed his Chief of Staff out of number 10, and now one of Labour's newest peers could face losing his peerage over links to another convicted paedophile. So why do so many of Keir Starmer's top appointments turn out to be useless, sleazy or both? In the useless camp we have Sue Gray, Chris Wormold, Tim Allen and Morgan McSweeney, and in the sleaze camp we have Peter Mandelson, Lord Doyle, Louise Haigh, Angela Rayner and Tulip Sadiq, just to name a few. So here's the Reverend Starmer in 2022.
Rebuild trust by reforming the centre of government, cleaning up sleaze.
But we can't trust the Prime Minister's judgment, and I'm now joined by the former Labour MP, Graham Jones. Graham, thank you for joining me, and very nice to see you. Why does the Prime Minister bungle so many of his appointments?
I just think he picked the wrong people from the start. The 5 M's, as they're known, the people that surround him, I think have let him down badly. I don't think they had any experience when he brought them in. And I think that they were very, very factional and particularly unpleasant, which is a comment that comes from a lot of people. But I think it's the incompetence from the start. We only got 33% at the general election, and Morgan McSweeney's track record over many years has been very poor, despite his acolytes trying to boost his CV a little bit in the newspapers. I don't think it washes for anybody that has a good hard look at what he hasn't achieved prior to this.
And if you take the very first key appointments after the July 2024 election, Sue Gray and Morgan McSweeney, all that happened was that 2 of them fought like cats and dogs for the first 3 months, which is one of the reasons nothing really has happened. The start that a new government needed didn't begin.
Well, I think the writing was on the wall prior to the general election. I mean, I'm no fan of Morgan McSweeney. I've been up close to him and I've seen how poor he is. And, you know, it was disappointing that he was Chief of Staff. And after the Hartlepool, where obviously he was removed as Chief of Staff, I thought, well, we were making progress, but then he was put back in as Chief of Staff. And I think that was when it started to deteriorate again. I just think a lot of it does come from Morgan McSweeney and his acolytes, and of course Matt Doyle, this friendship group that they all have. And I think they've let the Prime Minister down, and I think he's let himself down.
Tell me a bit, and my viewers, a bit more about Doyle, because I know very little about him, except the Prime Minister could have blocked his peerage, didn't need to give him a peerage. What's his role been in the Labour establishment? I think we've lost Graham. Anyway, thank you.
Criticised extensively.
Oh, no, I think we'd better go to the panel because we seem to be having some communications difficulties. Kevin, Keir Starmer is not a stupid man, he's an intelligent man. Has he just been unlucky because he's had a revolving door at Downing Street of some of the most important jobs, and this is not good for government. You need stability.
Yeah, I mean, where I'd start by just taking short issue is that you said the week couldn't get any worse. I actually think the week's got better as it's gone on for Keir Starmer. He's strengthened at the PLP. People have realised they need to come together. The Labour Party has realised it's got to carry on focusing on the economy, the NHS.
Well, OK, marvellous, but this isn't answering the question.
The question is, of course, it's the Labour Party under Starmer, and Starmer himself have seen, which you know happened because you lived it and you were part of it, that disunity and changing Prime Ministers doesn't work for the public.
I agree with that, but he has appointed Louise Haigh, who had a criminal conviction for fraud. That wasn't a great appointment.
OK, before you list them, fair enough.
Okay.
There are several, but before you list them, the difference is, this is a very fair point you make, the difference is what he does. OK, and he takes action, and it doesn't matter how close you are to him. If he finds out that you've done wrong and you've lied, you're done.
Well, except he's slow, isn't he? Because the Doyle thing, the peerage could have been stopped. The stuff came out in early December. The letters patent weren't issued until late December. And he didn't. He sat on his hands.
Yeah, I think you'll see, my take as one person's view is that peerage will not last. And what I'm pleased about is we're getting back to what was Labour put there for: centre-left, sensible economy, good public services.
All right, Sarah, I'll bring you in on this. That Napoleon always wanted lucky generals. It seems to me Starmer just is unlucky in his appointments. He appoints failed people.
I disagree with you unusually there, because I would say that you judge a man with the character of the people he surrounds himself with. And clearly Keir Starmer is constantly, one after the other, choosing to surround himself with people that are lacking integrity, that, I'm sorry, are corrupt, that are involved in child sexual abuse, that are...
Who's involved in child sexual abuse?
Well, he's surrounded himself, hasn't he, with... he's allowed Mandelson to be appointed as our representative to the United States, one of the most prestigious roles in government, who is clearly linked to Epstein, who we know.
It's just the way you said it sounded like you were accusing Labour.
And there was a sub judice issue, but we can't go into that.
So my point is he shows weak judgment time after time with who he surrounds himself. And, Kevin, you're talking about inside the Westminster bubble. Let's look at the British people here. They are fed up with power, corruption, greed, sexual issues. It's not good enough. The politicians are elected representatives of the people of this country.
And the Prime Minister knows that, Sarah.
Well, he does nothing about it. He should clear out his ship then, and he should have clean, common sense, decent politicians like myself running this country.
Well, all right, well, we hope that the ship will be cleaned and the ship of state will sail on. In a moment, as Labour sleaze row continues, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, of bigoted woman fame, has urged the police to re-examine the former Prince Andrew's links to Jeffrey Epstein. Is this a well-timed dead cat strategy from Brown to divert attention away from Labour's bad judgment back to the royal family?
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As Labour's sleaze row continues, the former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, has urged the police to re-examine Prince Andrew's links to Jeffrey Epstein. Gordon Brown himself appointed Peter Mandelson to government, actually made him a peer of the realm. So with the disgraced former ambassador being investigated by the police and Labour facing mounting questions, is this a well-timed dead cat strategy from Mr Brown to divert attention away from Labour's bad judgment and put it back onto the royal family? Well, back to my panel. Kevin, I'll let you go first. This is a well-timed intervention, isn't it, in a week that, as you said, actually has slightly improved for Keir Starmer. Yeah. So now you try and get it off Mandelson back to Prince Andrew.
Well, to be fair to Gordon, as our former Prime Minister, he was saying earlier this week, he was talking about a whole raft of reforms that need to happen. He's been quite radical, actually, on reform of the House of Lords, quite radical. I think the three of us would probably agree with, in future, ambassadorial appointments coming before the Commons, senior ministers having to have approval meetings like we do in the States. You might not like it, but I thought you might do.
No, I think it undermines the whole basis of our Constitution.
OK.
The key is that the Prime Minister commands a majority in the House of Commons, and he is then accountable to the House of Commons for his appointments,
well,
which is what we're seeing now, that the Prime Minister is accountable when the appointments go wrong. I think if you have Senate hearings, then the House of Commons becomes responsible for the appointment without getting all the information that a Prime Minister has available to him.
Well, I respect your point, but I think it could be really positive to come out of this a new system for approving these appointments, and no doubt we'll debate it. But no, it's not a dead cat strategy, it's not a distraction. Gordon Brown apologised this week for what he got wrong about Mandelson. The Prime Minister apologised. I want my politicians to have humility when they get it wrong.
But it is true that Gordon Brown knew what Peter Mandelson was like. They weren't bosom pals, but Gordon Brown thought that Mandelson's skills, odious as they turn out to be, weren't necessary to help him win an election. So it's quite convenient now to say, well, let's focus on Prince Andrew, let's have Prince Andrew investigated by the police, and let's now look away from Labour.
I mean, once again, you know, we're talking about the sort of inner workings and the dark arts of Westminster, but think about the British people here. We now not only have a government mired in sort of controversy and sleaze, we also have our royal family being dragged into this. And I just feel for the whole nation that, you know, it's an embarrassment whether we're talking about our government or whether we're talking about our royal family. And we've got to think about our standing on the world stage. And I think we would all, you know, just wish that this wasn't happening to us.
But it is happening.
It is happening. And
so what do you do? I mean, I don't think trying to cover it up would help the royal family or the nation.
Oh, 100% we shouldn't be covering it up. And look, we are where we are with it, and we can't put the lid back on Pandora's box, and nor should we. But the most important thing is we think about the victims and we bring the perpetrators to account.
But the main perpetrator is dead. The main perpetrator is dead. Yeah. What do we do about Andrew, that he's lost all his titles, he's been moved to Norfolk? Should he go into exile? Should he leave the country?
Yeah, book him a plane ticket.
No, I disagree with you because, OK, why should Andrew deserve a cushy life over in Dubai or wherever it might be where he can't be extradited back if necessary? All I would say was, just because you're royal, does that mean that you shouldn't be brought in front of the courts as unsavoury
No, but people
as
have had 15 years to investigate him. These files were all with the FBI, and nobody's come up with any...
But now, I mean, what's really relevant is if you saw what was happening in the States earlier this afternoon, where the same discussion was happening at a really important Senate committee, and there is a lot of pressure now for Andrew to go and testify, and I think he may have to, because he was so closely involved. There's pictures of him with blacked out faces of young women.
But it's his choice, isn't it? They can't force him to go.
I imagine there's a soft power element in terms of behind the scenes with our
I don't
own
think
king.
he'll go. I don't think he'll go willingly over to the States, because my understanding is, and Jacob, you're an expert in the law, but my understanding is that if he sets foot on US soil, then he can be effectively arrested, or I don't know what term they use over there. But I think if he's never going to set foot on US soil again, is he? Because I think he can then be detained for questioning.
Well, I also think that this is our affair, and if there anything that's happened that he's done that is criminal, it should be looked at by the British courts and by the British police, not by foreign courts.
Yeah, well, that is also happening, isn't it? It's happened this afternoon.
The Thames Valley Police have said.
Can I make one point just specifically? So the way that you just gave us then bravo, sort of very strident, articulate articulation about corruption and sleaze, and yet the way you do that, are you trying to make us forget about your own party and Russian money and the number of suspensions? Because that is part of this discussion. It pains me to say it.
It doesn't. That's the first thing you've ever said on my channel that isn't actually true. Anyway, that's a good point, I think, to stop. We've caught Kevin out because we've got some wonderful news. I am a coffee drinker, not a particularly secret one, so a brew for your brain. A new study suggests drinking tea or coffee could help keep your mind sharp, with regular caffeine drinkers showing a lower risk of dementia. 2 to 3 cups of coffee seem to be the optimal proof, perhaps, that the answer to everything really is the British way to put the kettle on. Well, I remember the thing about this many beans in every cup, which was sometimes instant coffee. I like instant coffee. Alta Rica for preference rather than complicated coffee with puffing noises. Anyway, that's all from me. Up next, you can have another cup of coffee listening to the one and only Patrick Christys. Patrick, are you coffee drinking this evening or something stronger?
I am coffee all the way, from the moment I wake up to, well, the moment I don't sleep. So there you go. But anyway, look, loads on tonight, loads on. Labour, do they have a paedophile apologist problem? Because it certainly looks like they do. Also, it's a big GBNews exclusive we did last night about one of Britain's worst Islamists being set to be freed from prison. Well, it looks like we now maybe could stop that. So that would be a huge victory for GBNews, and indeed the country, wouldn't it, if that Islamist was kept behind bars. But Labour's farcical one-in, one-out deal with the French, guess what? Migration lawyers and activists have got hold of this deal, and they are in the High Court trying to block it. They've come up with a just fabulous list of excuses as to why we can't deport any of these people back to France. I'm going to pick each of those apart at 9 p.m. And, of course, I will have a first look at all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Can it get even worse for Keir Starmer? He'll be in trouble tomorrow.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A very dull day to come for many of us tomorrow. Some brighter weather here and there, but it will be much colder, particularly for northeastern areas. We're starting to get northerly winds, cold air pushing in from the north. Low pressure systems also bringing batches of rain along these weather fronts, and there will be some quite heavy rain across many southern areas through this evening, pushing into the southeast. That should clear by tomorrow morning, but behind it, a mess of cloud and outbreaks of drizzly rain, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland and northeastern areas of England, as well as eastern Scotland through this evening. Will turn a little bit dry, though, for the far north of Scotland. As a result, with some clearer skies around, it could be quite a chilly start to the day on Thursday. So outbreaks of rain for some areas through Thursday morning. The far north of Scotland getting away with a fairly dry day, though for Shetland and Orkney we've still got a risk of snow showers through Thursday morning. Northern Ireland seeing the worst of drizzly rain. It's quite light, but it will be persistent through much of the day, in fact. Cloudy skies for much of England. The far southwest seeing outbreaks of heavy showers into the morning, so a risk of some quite heavy rain and some quite brisk westerly winds. Still relatively mild out there or across more southwestern areas to start the day on Thursday. Elsewhere, though, a chillier feel to come through the day. We've got these winds coming in from the North Sea across many eastern coasts. That's going to bring a chillier feel, and outbreaks of persistent rain for many northern areas of England and southern Scotland will bring giving a pretty dismal feel to the day. Across the southwest, though, still 10 or 11 degrees, but that's the last of the mild weather as cold weather becomes more dominant, at least for a time. A risk of snow and sleet. We do have snow and ice warnings in force until around lunchtime on Friday. It's a risk of icy surfaces and snow accumulating over the high ground. But there will be a break in the weather for Saturday, a day of sunshine to come. It won't last all that long, though, because the rain will return for Sunday.
Warm and cosy.